Hi there, my name is Florian, I'm from the LMU Munich and I'm going to present to you some work that I conducted together with my co-authors Arantxa, Dominik and Julian about undo actions for locomotion in virtual reality. Imagine you're at a conference, for example in Hamburg, and you've been listening to some really inspiring talks all day, but you start feeling like you need a little culture break. So you decide to head over to St. Pauli, an area known for its cultural richness. As you walk there, you're excited because you're exploring a new path, but then you realize, oh no, I have to give a talk in just about half an hour. So you rush back and you end up taking the same path that you just walked, which is obviously a bit boring because you have seen all of this before and it just takes time. Later, after you talk, you feel like you need another culture fix. So you decide to walk over to the Reeperbahn. But once again, you're walking the same path that you already walked twice today. This kind of backtracking happens in smaller ways too, like when you're looking for a lost key at home. You walk from the hallway to the living room, then back to the hallway to get to the kitchen and then across the hallway to the bedroom where you finally find the key in the pants from yesterday. In virtual reality, this kind of backtracking is particularly common because finding and collecting objects or information is a key part of many games and also learning environments. However, this repetitive traversal of known locations can decrease the efficiency, lower performance and reduce spatial knowledge acquisition. While it is necessary in the real world, in the physical world, to get back to reach previously visited locations, locomotion in VR is not bound to the physical laws of reality. So we can do things there that are not possible in the physical world. As a possible solution to this repetitive backtracking, in this work we explored how we can apply the concept of undo, as we know it from a variety of other domains, to locomotion in virtual reality. For this, we started with the traditional point and teleport locomotion technique, which is the single most common locomotion technique in virtual reality. Point and teleport also automatically generates waypoints, which are the points between the user's teleports. We took these points in this work and allowed our users to jump back to previous points by pressing a button. There are, of course, a number of different implementations possible for this. So in this paper, we implemented 8 different variations of undo actions for locomotion in virtual reality to compare them in a controlled experiment. For this, we varied 3 independent variables. The first independent variable was the position undo. So does the user have the option to reset the position to a previous point? The second independent variable was the orientation undo. So does the undo reset the orientation to the orientation of the last waypoint, or does it ignore the orientation? After reviewing related works, we had the hypothesis that changing the position and especially the orientation of the users could basically destroy their spatial understanding of a scene. As a possible countermeasure, the literature suggested a continuous visualization of the movement through fast camera movement in contrast to the widespread discrete fade out at the start and fade in at the goal of the typical teleport implementation. So as a final independent variable, we varied the movement visualization between continuous and discrete. Now, what did we make our participants do in the study? We wanted a task that focused on the issue of spatial memory. For this, we chose a radial arm maze task. The radial arm maze task was first used to assess the spatial abilities of rodents in the 70s and has since then been adapted for the use with humans and in recent years also for virtual reality. The basic task consists of a central room that you can see here on the slide, and at the end of each of the corridors that spread from the central room there are hidden rewards that the participants are supposed to reach. There are a lot of different variations of this task depending on what exactly you want to find out, and I'm only going to explain the version we chose in this talk. For the reasoning, please see the paper. So what we did is called the unqueued forced choice radial maze task. So we have the central room with 8 arms branching off, and at the end of each arm there is a hidden reward. At the beginning, 4 of the 8 arms are closed. The participant's task was to go into the 4 open arms and collect the rewards. After they collected the fourth reward, the remaining 4 doors opened, and the participants' task was to collect the remaining 4 rewards. For the analysis, we basically ignored the first phase, which is basically only considered a training phase for this task, and analyzed only the second phase, so the 4 coins collected after the doors opened. For these 4 coins, we counted how often participants entered corridors that they visited before as a measurement for problems in the spatial memory. We also measured the coin collection time, number of teleports, number of undos, and so on as a measure for the efficiency. Besides these, we also had participants fill a couple of questionnaires after each condition for additional feedback. Here you see how that task looked like in practice. At the beginning of the condition, the first 4 doors opened, and participants used pointed teleport to go to the corridors and collect the 4 rewards. After the 4th reward was collected, the remaining doors opened, and we started to measure our dependent variables. Here, just as an overview again, the details for the experiment that we conducted with 24 participants. Now, let's have a short look at the results, and let me start with a warning here. There are a lot of numbers in this paper, and I won't go through them all, so this can only be a small glimpse into the results. For more details, please have a look at the paper. So, one of the things we found is that with position undo, people made more mistakes. So they more often went into corridors that they had visited before. This is also reflected by a higher traveled distance. However, if we look at the coin collection time, so the time that participants needed from one coin to the next coin, and this is actually the time including the errors that they made, we basically see no difference. Which means that our participants were traveling faster with position undo available, but made more mistakes. Now, for the question why participants made more mistakes using position undo, we have no conclusive answer. From our observations and also the statements of our participants, we assume that position undo reduced the cost in terms of additional time and effort that came from making a mistake. This resulted in participants not focusing on avoiding errors, but adopting a circular search strategy. Because with position undo available, it felt for them like it doesn't really matter if they make a mistake because it's so fast. So, thing to remember, position undo allows for faster travel but increases errors. So this is it for position undo. Now let's have a short look at orientation undo. We can see that orientation undo also increased the number of errors when used without position undo. When paired with position undo, which itself increases the number of errors as we have seen, we however see that orientation undo has a positive effect and reduces the number of errors compared to the pairing with no orientation undo. So we see that orientation undo alone has a negative effect on the errors, but works much better in combination with position undo. This is also something we see in the answers of our participants to the questions in our questionnaire. Orientation undo alone was rated worst for convenience, even worse than no undo at all. When combined with position undo, however, we found the highest ratings across all conditions. So the thing to remember here is orientation undo alone has a negative effect, but can enhance the positive characteristics of position undo. So taken together, our results indicate that an implementation of undo for locomotion in virtual reality should make use of both position and orientation undo to provide the best user experience. Because of time constraints, we have not really talked about the movement visualization, and I left this out because the results are quite straightforward here. The discrete visualization led to lower coin collection times, reduced cyber sickness, and was clearly preferred by the participants in their feedback. And with that, I would like to close and thank you for your attention. I look forward to your questions in the SIGCHI program tool or at a bar in St. Pauli.